best worst movie of the year. I'm calling it. Absolute best worst movie of the year. I can't imagine a movie coming along that is this compulsively watchable, this imminently terrible, and yet somehow reaches peaks of movie making that most filmmakers today can only aspire to and never reach. It's
I thought that I was going to agree with you.
Yeah.
I went into this thinking it was going to be either, really, really awesome or worse schlocky bad like Jupiter Ascending. And, we got the Jupiter Ascending overall, but the parts that were good schlock about this were better than Jupiter Ascending.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
And I want to just be able to sum this whole thing up and just wrap it up into one little category, but
it's impossible.
There's problems.
Oh boy, are there problems!
It's almost like it had different writing at different points.
But it was all by one guy. It
was all by one guy.
It's all by Luc Besson. He wrote and directed it, and you can't blame this on a committee of writers. You can't blame this. This is one of the most confounding passion projects from a writer-director I've seen in quite some time.
Apparently, it was the most expensive independent film ever to make. And I can see why with the visuals. This is a very visually appealing movie.
I would even call it visually arresting.
Yeah.
And the best part about it, by far, are not only its visuals but the cinematography. At no point do you feel disoriented.
No.
At no point do you feel like you're being cheated out of the environment. The spectacularly realized environments, the spectacularly rendered environments, and you never once feel like, oh, I wish I could get a full-blown view of all this. You are never cheated out of that, and you cannot. In this day and age of your Transformers, in this day and age of your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, in this day and age, you cannot undervalue the ability to not only build a world but properly show it. And from that perspective, Valerian, the movie we saw, by the way, A's across the board. Visually speaking, A's across the board. I cannot imagine this movie looking any better than it is. And not only does it look great, it's Luc Besson's, the guy who made The Fifth Element. So it's also it borrows from his previous work, especially in terms of costume design.
Yeah.
But, considering what costume design we don't get in movies these days, even the most expensive, highly budgeted Hollywood produced, movies like your Avengers or your Marvel studio, there's barely any costume work. Even
computer.
Goddamn Guardians of the Galaxy volumes 1 and 2 that is set out in space.
So much computer.
Yeah, so much, so many, drab colored jumpsuits and nothing really that stands out.
This one is just, it is so pitch perfect on the, just keeping everything so much different. So much different between all the thousands of different species, and god damn, you see a lot of different species. There is every frame has 10 different species in it. Mm-hmm. Holy crap.
And one of my favorite things about this movie is that it takes its time to not only set up set up the world. The first scene is them building the space station, and then aliens keep coming in and in and in, and it really expands the setting of the story. You could very easily be lost in the narrative of this movie, considering how many alien species there are.
Felt to me
but it all massaged it really good. You never missed a beat. But
it felt to me almost like a really schlocky, game that that you could play Mass Effect. Yeah, God, I'm gonna stop saying that. It's like a game that you'd really want to play that has this completely all over the place narrative, but you're okay with that because of the visuals and the engaging combat system and everything. It's very like a game.
Yeah, way. The second act basically turns into a fetch quest for the main characters. But like as far as this bad, like that's a bad script if I've ever seen it. But it also is like the most naked attempt to get you to from set piece to set piece, and all set pieces are all shot very well and they're all well realized. So I can't exactly.
No, that wasn't fair. I shouldn't say narrative is all over the place.
No, the narrative wasn't all over the place. It was actually fairly streamlined.
What I should have said is
like
that
Jupiter Ascending was all over the place.
No, the narrative was actually that was completely wrong. The narrative was very straightforward. The problem was the
you know what?
The logic was all over the place.
The logic was the character inconsistency was it might as well have been taken out back by the shed and shot in the head by the end of the movie.
It suffers from layers of stupidity that it keeps folding and getting worse and worse and worse as far as being able to make sense of anything, which from the beginning it's very hard to, and you don't really care because you don't expect to. You're not trying to make sense of any of this. It's okay. The first 40% of the movie was my favorite part. The first 30% of it was feeling like
30 or 40.
No, I said the first 40% of it was my favorite part, but no, but seriously though, like the first 30% of it, to be really try to be accurate here, is where it felt like this could actually be a legitimate good movie.
Yeah, I was getting that feeling too. Like the first act, you could not ask for a more perfect, popcorn flick action, like sci-fi action flick, especially an unestablished IP. Yeah. This is based off a comic book, so you can't call it an original IP, but you can definitely call it untested. Because it's not based off a superhero. This isn't based off a superhero. This isn't based off of any kind of property that your average moviegoer, nay, American, would know. So from that perspective, it introduced itself wonderfully, and it really to the movie's credit, it like I said, it managed to establish the world, the settings, and the characters and the aliens, almost to a kind of a parody of. To a paradoxical T, because one of the very first interactions we have with our two leads, Dane DeHaan,
yeah.
I mean, I almost do the Aro laugh from Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2. Whenever I see Dane DeHaan, him and Davigny. I know her last name is Davigny, but I'm
the person who's
Enchantress.
Enchantress.
She was Enchantress in Suicide Squad, but don't hold that against her. She was.
Oh, she was great.
Yeah, she was great. Even though when she was doing the
that was shit. It wasn't her fault.
It wasn't her fault. She did the best.
What else was she gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. At least she was memorable. But Davigny, Davigny and DeHaan. Oh, Davigny and DeHaan. Yeah, I know, right? Like our first interaction with them is them nakedly laying out like their characters. Like you graduated from Yale, and like you have like they're just listing
doing
up
a little fuck fight kind of deal.
Yeah, like they're this back and forth where they're like, she's annoyed that he's not committing to her, and he, for some reason or another, has like pictures of all his female conquests.
Yeah,
just lining
it was like intentional comedy schlock, and it was good, and it was good.
It was good.
And I'm being kind of ridiculous saying, 30%, 40%, but this is a 2.5 hour movie, and there really was like a certain point where after that 30%, I was like, okay, this is no longer going to be this kind of movie, but I'm still going to enjoy it. And then like 10% later, okay. Well, it's not going to be that kind of movie either, but I'm still going to try to enjoy it. I mean, it's still schlocky, it's still visually appealing, and it's still kind of funny. Yeah. And then once you get to about...
I'd say like the third act.
The third act, about 70% of the way through, maybe. Yeah. You tail end of the movie, it's like, oh no, now I'm seeing where they started to give up. And I'm seeing where Dane DeHaan started to lose his Dane DeHaaniness. Yeah,
there is one Dane DeHaan moment that this is why in my heart of hearts I can never hate on this. I can never hate this movie at all, even a little bit, because we have one of the Dane DeHaaniest moments of all of Dane DeHaan's career.
There's quite a few, but
there was an argument between him and Davigny, and Davigny tries to muscle back, and all he says is that's major to you, and he gives this
and did the smile.
Yeah.
That's major. She walks off set, and the camera focuses in on his face, and then it.
Yeah, it's just like
Oh.
I did one of these. I did one of these to Gabe. I'm buying this movie on Blu-ray.
We'll have a Jupiter Ascending and Valerian back to back.
Yeah. I think this is as far I want to take this conversation without going into spoiler territory, I think.
Yeah.
So
let me put it this way: a fan edit would do this movie a hell of a lot of good for certain points.
So not only would I recommend you see this movie if you're willing to watch a movie that is very, very complicated to sit through, but I would also recommend watching this movie in 3D. We didn't see the 3D version of this movie, but
but I kind of think that it would have been worth it.
It really would have been worth it, and unfortunately, if I could take anything back, is like, let's see the 3D version of it. Well, unfortunately, our theater wasn't showing 3D version.
Okay. So, what you gonna do?
Well, so it's not there. It's not there. So what are you gonna do? I don't know. But but having said that, you're going to be in for a very complicated sit. You're going to experience the full range of emotion. You will be trapped in a glass case of emotion if you watch this movie. So be prepared for that, and be prepared to question all of logic by watching this movie. Not necessarily in a good way, but not necessarily in a bad way. Just in an interesting way.
Can I talk about this case?
Not yet. Let's.
Is that too spoiler?
It's a little. Let's cut this off right here. Cut this off. Wait, before you say anything, would you recommend seeing this movie?
Okay. Yes, I would definitely recommend seeing this movie. 3D is good. We didn't. You can, attest to how much better that was. If you see it both ways, yeah, I would. Like, if they were to have someday a cult night or something, if this became like some kind of schlocky cult classic and see it in 3D, I'd go back and see it. Hell, I might go and see it again with some, take someone and see it in 3D. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. So here it is. Like, let's throw. We're not going to leave anything off the table. This is our full spoiler discussion right here. Holy crap! Can we just have a moment and just talk about how just otherworldly the technology for itself, like the world itself. Let's talk about fuck it. Let's talk about the pearls. Let's just talk about the fucking pearl race. They're at once I find them annoying because they kind of suffer from Navi syndrome for me. Like, they're a little too perfect. They're a little too. Not only are they attuned with nature perfectly, not only are, like a perfectly peaceful race, but they also managed to, within a 30-year gap, within one generation, they completely mastered like space and time space travel and learning multiple languages, including English.
And classified all the races.
Yeah. All in 30 years.
What happened was, it's like they're on a wrecked, part of a spaceship. I guess it was
after their planet was destroyed.
So spoilers are okay.
Yeah, we're into spoilers.
So they're on a derelict wrecked spaceship part, I guess, and they somehow were able to keep it together. Keep it together. No, they're able to keep their thing held up. Somehow, how are they not just like
yeah, I know, it's like,
it is a god.
Yeah, I have no idea,
but they did, and it's all right, whatever. But
I mean, the pearl race is basically the catalyst that starts the whole thing going, because while that war happened through time and space, this is important to realize. Their planet was destroyed by a war that the humans waged on some race we never got to see. We never got to see who they were warring with, but their planet got destroyed in the process. And the princess of the
that's actually a really good point. We know that the humans were on the one side of it,
but we don't know who the other side was.
But we don't. They never really freaking mentioned that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, considering how many different races they showed in here that had nothing to do with anything,
Yeah.
because they were just screen fodder, and it's
Oh,
kind of weird that they did neglected that part.
yeah, like, I mean, of all the digressions that we went on throughout this movie, just to basically
Yeah.
have aliens be aliens, we didn't get even nary a single shot of the aliens that the humans were fighting against that wound up destroying a backwater planet with a bunch of pearl people that could apparently
Yeah.
that apparently has access to this living duplicator machine.
Okay, we get to talk about it.
Yes.
Okay. Can I do it? Can I do it?
One last thing. I just want to set up the plot.
Okay.
So, Princess winds up, on the outside, and she uses her last breath or some kind of weird bullshit where she could transfer her her soul into whoever she deems worthy, and apparently she did it like 30 years into the future to get to Dane DeHaan, because apparently she knew that Dane DeHaan would be a good steward for her spirit. My question, though, after saying that, all right, okay, whatever. That makes Dane DeHaan the special, okay. Weird roundabout way of going.
Well, the movie's called Valerian.
And he was Valerian, so.
I don't know why. That's one of my gripes, is that they call this movie Valerian,
But he's not-
honestly,
He's not necessarily the main character.
they're both the main characters. They have pretty much exact equal screen time.
And, like, the story was about them, not necessarily
That's
about Valerians.
One of the things that pissed me off a little bit.
But the thing is that there was another Pearl that died and did the exact same thing. Where the fuck did his spirit go? Like, in the middle of the movie, like, a Pearl died and did that exact same blue explosion thing.
Yeah, where did his subconscious go, dude?
I guess it just.
Oh shit! It went to like some, I don't know, gelatinous sea living creature or something.
I think the movie tried to hint that it went into the good captain of the space station.
They hinted pretty fucking badly then.
I mean, he was willing to give the pearls the benefit of the doubt towards the end of the movie, so I guess that's them.
And the amount of like when it can affect people and when it doesn't, or how much it is pretty shoddy. There's not a good, because it like Dane DeHaan Valerian makes some pretty completely contrary to the spirit inside him decisions later.
Yeah, and we'll certainly get to that, but let's talk about that
Yeah.
duplicator plot point.
Okay. Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
They have horned toads that fart out freaking pearls like Skittles and Taste the Rainbow's commercial.
Yeah, Skittles, taste the rainbow. I know, right?
This is their everything. This is their crops, their minerals, everything is basically just what they have on this planet is these horned toads that fart out pearls, and they harvest them. And I don't know exactly what they eat. If maybe it's the pearls, I don't know. We don't know a lot about the extent of what the pearls can do.
Well, we know that the pearls are just basically condensed energy.
They're like 2,500 megatons of
25
weight condensed into
like 25 megatons of energy.
Energy condensed into one little
pearl.
Yeah.
So that's why everyone wants it, because it's a matter replicator, and it can replicate pretty much anything that it eats, and then it shakes it off. And so, all right, so that's basically our MacGuffin. That's like...
Oh, that's what it was. That's right. And that's how they were able to subsist off of anything, because they can turn it into food and whatever, I guess. Or
they could do it with everything.
It was just everything they needed. But the weird thing is, why the fuck do they wear shells on their back if just, like, to comment on the pearls?
Well, there were horned toads, so, like, I guess somewhere along their alien evolutionary line, it became beneficial for them to just have some armor plating on their back.
No, the actual...
like the pearl
race. The Na'vi people.
Oh, yeah.
They had, like, giant seashell backpacks. But I don't know why.
Because they're sea people. They live on the sea. Their entire planet is just one gigantic beach. It's actually really ridiculous. Like, it is so ridiculous. Their beach is literally strewn with gigantic conch shells. They drink out of, like, these, fucking gourd-like conchs. I'm having a real tough time. I'm having a real tough time swallowing every... I'll admit, like, as good as the beginning is, the actual real, like, this is the Pearl people in their world. I had a real tough time like stuffing my giggles down my throat because
Yeah.
because the princess, is like, you couldn't ask for a more idyllic
Oh
lifestyle.
dear God!
It-
Like Disney princess style to the max, with her like wandering around with her arms
like
up.
when was she not doing this bullshit?
Nah, never.
She was
Really never.
like
Really never.
like the bad thing that happened to the planet could not have come sooner.
Yeah.
It could not have come sooner, and thankfully it did. Well, yeah,
There is so much. Look at this stuff, isn't it neat?
Oh.
She puts pearls on her face to like wash her face and like moisturize it or something.
It gives it a healthy pearl iridescent glow.
Yeah, but even though it's like already inherent in their bodies,
I guess rubbing
even
a
when they're
little.
away from them, they have it, and it turns dark when they're like away from it and unhappy.
Yeah. So like you have to wrap your head around a lot of the decision making behind it,
Or not.
or not. You could just let it
Please
happen.
don't.
Yeah, like
Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah, you're just gonna let the movie
Yeah.
happen. Let the movie happen.
Just
So like,
Yeah.
I think from like the beginning was great at not only establishing itself, but also kind of letting you all know it's like, let the movie happen. Just let it happen. And you're going along with the ride as Valerian, or let's just call the actors by their
Dane
name.
DeHaan.
Like, just call DeHaan and Davigny are basically ordered to take the last remaining duplicator Toad, to abduct it and bring it back to the gigantic space station that was built around the International Space Station over years and years of alien and not only human cooperation, but also alien cooperation, and that's where the term for the last half of the title of this movie comes from, the City of 1,000 Planets, because there's like 1,000 races and alien species living.
Yeah,
in
they had to send a space station away from Earth because. Whew. Okay, so did you understand exactly how that worked? Because apparently the gravitational pull or something of having that space station was so
like it was
large
starting.
that,
It was starting to
like,
affect Earth's orbit.
It was dragging, yeah.
It was starting to affect Earth's orbit, which granted, we had no idea how big the thing was, but pretty damn big. I mean, I would imagine that something as big as a small moon would definitely have an effect on the Earth's atmosphere. I mean, or at the very least the tides. But it was nice. I liked the idea that one, alien species first interaction with humans is just like, hey, well, let's add on to the space station. For some reason or another, all the alien species of the entire universe decide to congregate like right outside Earth for just to build like this huge congregation of alien species.
Why was Earth so special?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I mean, maybe this is Earth during a different time.
but
why Earth?
Like, why Earth? It's like Earth isn't anything special. Like, even from like a cosmic perspective.
I mean, I imagine this is in the future, right? Or is
I mean, the space station like was built over like several decades. I think it
it's
was
not like another dimension.
No. Like, it's just in the future.
Yeah, it means clearly in the future. So, Earth would really be depleted at this point. Like, in a way that they would have to have everything outsourced to their planet. Everything. So, what were they getting from Earth?
And for some,
barren at this point.
I don't know. I didn't choose to think about that. I would think that by the time that we have like we have a space station that big, we would probably find some kind of renewable energy source.
This was the movie that was about like thousands of different species. They did not need to have it revolve around the humans. They did not.
No, they did not.
They could have still had, DeHaan and Davigny be like the only two humans, and they would be, like, oh, you're humans, and everybody would like, I don't know what the fuck you are, because there's so many goddamn races. I haven't even learned of them all yet. What the hell's that? I don't know. What are you? Don't know. So the fact that they're human would be like completely pointless. It would just happen to be two people that we're focusing on.
Yeah.
Because it's more easy for us to relate to because they're humans.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, like, from the human perspective, the human perspective is important for a narrative like this because you need to have some kind of footing for your audience.
Yeah.
And they did, the story did, use them as such pretty well. But as as soon as like the abduction happens and that entire chase scene that happens, which is really cool because I love this idea of there's this marketplace that's in between dimensions that you have to interact with. So you get this really ridiculous scene in which Dane DeHaan is running away from John Goodman Alien and his dogs, and all their reality can see is just this floating hand that's with a floating hand with a little.
Oh God, this is you see, this was okay. This was definitely in the still 30% of the movie where I was like, oh, this can be really creative. This movie can actually be the extremely good movie that I was hoping it could possibly be, and it was for that amount of time.
No, I would argue there even more. Like during some of those chase scenes, like there's a scene in the middle of the movie, or actually towards the end of the first act, where Dane DeHaan is running through the entire space station in his power armor.
Yeah,
that was
it was kind of a little funny, schlocky, but it was great. It was really visually appealing and just cool.
It was, yeah, exactly. It was cool, but although that did lead to a similar point somewhere down the line when Divigny got captured. She was wearing the exact same power suit as Dane DeHaan. She could have muscled up and just broke herself out anytime she wanted, just activate the suit, but she doesn't.
They just had to have this damsel in distress scene.
Well, it's like she rescued him, and so he rescues her.
So they had to have a damsel in distress scene.
Yeah.
And even though... the thing is, her rescue of him made sense. Because he was freaking... He went through a spaceship through like a spaceship. He went through a wall, and he was knocked out cold. It's just like, well, shit, man. And he didn't even have any trackings of him where he was. It was completely off the grid, and so she had to, go rogue, and
go rogue and like fight off, and then she had to go find a catoblepas inside a gigantic swim tank, steal a jellyfish from the catoblepas, and then put it on her head.
She had to. And they did specify that it was the asshole of a jellyfish because they said it wasn't its mouth.
Yeah,
so she had to shove her head up the ass of a jellyfish in order to have a kind of like not premonition, but like a remote viewing of where Dane DeHaan was.
So, like somehow.
Actually, it was also past viewing. It was past, present, and not. Was it future?
I think it was like I don't know, like the three alien, like the three talking aliens that were somehow the worst and best part of this movie because they were so.
I fucking hated them.
I hated them too, but it was like the right kind of hate. They got the right kind of heat from me. Like,
they were heels, I guess, is what you're saying.
Yeah, like they annoyed me in the right way to make me hate them, but like nothing so infuriating that
it had some Jar Jar imps.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah. What I was kind of like pissed off is, hey, what the fuck are you little three guys over here? I hate those kind of little guys. I've seen them before. They're annoying. She says, it's like, oh, okay, she's gonna just shove them off, and it's like, ooh, Valerian's like, you need to ask them for information. I'm like, oh no. Please don't.
So
she does, and it turns out that they are plot devices, and they know things because they know things, and they're kind of like the three,
they're kind of
fake weavers or whatever.
Yeah, like they're kind of like the sisters of fate, the Furies.
They just like they have all this knowledge because they're Machiavellian prodigies, and
they just pop in and out of the story at will. There's no rhyme or reason to where they are or why they're there.
Yeah.
But you know what?
And in a movie like this, I gave that a lot more leeway than I normally would.
Yeah.
Even though they're,
that's what like
Jar Jar imps.
That's where the story, even though it's streamlined, like everything weird that happens in the movie has a very obvious point to it. Every single like weird happenstance and every single weird character turn, there is an obvious reason why they're there. Yeah. But that doesn't stop the story from being this hodgepodge of like, wait, what? Wait,
but why?
What?
How did it get there, though?
Wait, what? How? Why?
Yeah.
So,
what were the chances they were just making a turn down? Okay. I'm going to say they knew what they were doing. I'm going to say they were there for a reason.
Like they were just putting themselves in the right place at the right time to get what they want. I can buy that.
At the time watching it, I didn't.
Yeah, like when you didn't know anything about them, you're just like, wow, these three furry alien dudes are just approaching fucking Divigny for no reason.
Right at this perfect moment. Yeah.
Right at this.
All right, they were like brokers of information. Sure.
So, like, I suppose you could You could, but like I think,
Would,
but at that
it would
point,
have been a little better if there was more of like they just didn't wander halls.
yeah, like I think like at that point you're doing most of the movie's heavy lifting instead of the
Yeah.
movie should be doing
And
it.
what are these little fuckers, be allowed doing wandering these halls?
Let us not gloss over the fact that Divigny put a jellyfish's asshole on her head.
We didn't. Yeah.
Let's not gloss over
gloss
that.
over that. So she did do that, and she did see where Dane DeHaan was through remote viewing of the jellyfish's.
Psychic ability,
Psychic.
which is why the
Yeah.
fuck would a jellyfish be inside a gigantic like I understand like through its own like etymology that it wants to be like etymology, that's study of insects, sorry, like through its own like evolutionary line, and we need an aquatic environment. It's a jellyfish, of course. So why the fuck would this jellyfish be for some reason be in a gigantic carbon mine? Like there's not a drop of liquid to be found anywhere, let alone a big old gigantic vat of water for it to just hang out. I don't know why it would know it was there, but he was there. And more to the point, when she rescues him,
it lives in those big creatures.
yeah,
That's not really helping, though, is it?
No, it is
that
not.
just adds more questions.
but like again, weird thing just serves a purpose. Serves a purpose of letting her know where DeHaan is. So when DeHaan is revived and his asshole self is like, yeah, like she's not even thank you. It's like, what? I would have done the same for you, and that leads to that great.
The thing is, they have that relationship of like, he's the smug asshole kind of guy who's interesting because he is, and and she just can't stay away from him kind of thing, and then it seems like that's like just stupid and bad, but actually it's not. To me, this was like their sexy role play stuff they did.
Mm-hmm.
Like they totally were into each other. They always knew that, but they loved to do this kind of stuff. It was just like their foreplay before.
Yeah,
fucking.
it was to me
Yeah.
like this was their little back and forth. Their back and forth was more believable than the goddamn rotten back and forth of Amazeball Spider Bro 2.
Yeah. Like we knew they were hitched from the beginning, so it was just kinky foreplay.
Or their own version of it.
Yeah.
But I think the where the movie kind of turned from like enjoyable crap into like holy shit, what the fuck are they doing? This is amazing. This is terrible, but this is amazing. Is when I can tell you the exact moment when Divigny just looks at these pink butterflies, ooh, pretty, and then she gets captured from a lure.
That was actually really creative.
It was
Stupid, but creative.
like I was thinking it was like glowworms. Like
I didn't see that coming, did you?
No, like when I first saw it, like oh, like there's an alien species that it kind of like the glowworms in caves where they use this bioluminescent thread to capture bugs, and then the worms suck them up and eat them. It's like oh, okay, that's out of nowhere, but it's a nice idea. But no, they're just literal fishing lures
For these like
blobby aliens.
mongoloidy alien types that.
And then that apparently first. All right, so these mongoloid aliens traveled through space, got on board here, but then still have a primitive society where they're literally attacking with swords and spears, and they have this gigantic temple of doom, like a literal temple of doom in the middle of this space station.
We have seen that there are species of aliens that are like they have psychic ability. They have like doppelgangers and stuff. There's everything. There's cybernetic beings that can like hack through shit and everything, anything, and so why are these guys so like dangerous? And because the captain or whatever says they got into what was the place called? Do you remember? They got into like Mongoloyville or whatever.
Yeah,
and he's like, nobody gets into there, and nobody gets out.
Which begs, like, well, you got hella blasters and space rifles.
Yeah.
They have spears and swords.
Yeah.
You tolerate their existence. What are they
Their
going to
IQ level is like my thumb.
If they're not doing something you like, evict them. You outnumber them. Not only do you have the numbers advantage, not only do you have the technological advantage, not only do you have the moral high ground, because at the very least, you're the ones who let them in and stuff. Just
You let them into the Ark.
You're the ones who let them in and let them build their Temple of Doom.
You have you have another species right over less than a block over there who could probably just mind meld or just like mind wash them in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
Or even just melt them or something, anything, whatever.
I know. Why?
Just psychically have one of those other guys psychically tell them that they should move over here.
Exactly.
Uh,
Why?
Or maybe with their power armor, they could just walk away.
Break out of their wooden cage.
She's in a wooden cage. They have power armor that could just blast through anything. Not only that, but Dane DeHaan has a little spider case. Okay, he has a little pill case that he puts in his mouth when they're being like someone shoots him with a gun that shoots glob all over, like ooze all over them, so they're trapped. And it establishes that he has this little thing that he kept in his mouth, so when he's globbed over and he can't move, it's time to set off, and a little mechanical spider comes up. I don't know. Apparently they're aware of this kind of weaponry, so he has that in case.
Just in case.
And it's programmed to walk over here and shoot up a little like a tiny lightsaber, like for
it's a laser cutter.
Yeah, like a ham carving lightsaber, and it walks over his body, carving through the ooze so he can get out. And I'm thinking, why didn't she use that for the wooden cage? She must have one too in her power armor, right?
Yeah.
They have the same gear.
She has power armor.
I mean, if that or just break through.
But like, no. Either way, like everything that happens, everything weird that happens in the movie, no matter how convenient, no matter how like illogical, is just there to move the story along.
And it's very amusing that once she gets out, she could have walked away. Because if she just puts her helmet, it's like a automatic helmet.
Yeah.
Just put the button on, helmet goes up, nothing. She's impervious.
Pretty much.
She could just walk away. They could hit her with spears and stuff, and she's just like, not a problem.
Yeah, like I mean, Dane DeHaan had a reason why. Like his suit was busted. Like after his ship crashed, his suit was busted. That's why
she wasn't.
No, like there's her suit was fine and dandy.
Yeah.
So why didn't she do it? Other than to have like what is the probably the not the nadir of the movie, that comes later in the movie, but the what am I watching most like the exchange she has with her female mongoloid captor. Ooh. Where she's basically being told like pretty womaning, like, would you want to wear this dress or wear this dress? And she's trying to get through to her and she just screams at her, just like, let me go. And she just screams back and just covers her like with rancor spit.
How do they have the wherewithal? How do this species have the wherewithal to have clothes that fit her? Why am I asking?
I don't know, but the whole point of this whole pretty woman getup,
another species.
Yeah, this whole pretty woman getup is supposed to like leads to her with a white dress and a gigantic bowl on her head with as a hat, and she's carrying these two gigantic lemons.
You may have seen the trailer. The hat, this giant white hat,
giant, looking not unlike a sombrero of the future.
Yeah,
but this gigantic white bowl of a hat, and she's carrying these two gigantic lemons, and she's being led to their king.
The actual lemons.
Actual lemons, like actual gigantic lemons. And he's about to juice the lemons over her head, and he has like this special brain.
It's like, oh, he's like she's bringing him the lemons to eat. And, oh no, he's actually using them to dress her up. And turns out that the top of the head has a little hole for her head to stick out, and he's gonna chop it off and eat it and
eat her brains.
And then
But thankfully, during this whole scene, fucking Dane DeHaan goes into the nearby red light district, finds Ethan Hawke looking more like Mark McGrath than he ever has in his entire life.
Combined with Bono.
Yeah, combined with Bono. Goes inside a brothel, finds a shape-shifting prostitute,
Rihanna,
played by Rihanna, and then gets her to morph into one of the mongoloids. Infiltrates.
And let's not forget the obligatory, just completely fan servicey scene of her pole dancing.
Like it's a full 3-minute scene of her just doing a bunch of
pretty long.
Pretty like.
And it's just Ethan Hawke doing this like cyber piano thing.
Very very reminiscent of the opera scene in Fifth Element. As like
what?
Reminiscent of how, like, it's placed.
Whoa!
It's reminiscent in terms of plot relevance. When you really think about what the opera scene of Fifth Element, did it really have a point other than like, here's a weird alien chick doing this weird opera thing? doesn't really have a place in the movie for as far as the importance of what's happening.
It coincided with another scene where she was doing awesome martial arts.
Well, yeah, but like it did. That was like thematic. That was thematic.
I mean, disregarding the class of that whole scene, and the art and the precision and the cinematography,
disregarding
beautiful singing.
The beautiful singing. I'm not saying like it's a bad scene. I'm saying that as far as a narrative is concerned, there was no reason why like she was singing other than to like be thematic and to
think of like a mafia movie where somebody's about to do the hit, and they show a guy sitting down, he's in the audience listening to an opera or something, and you see the guy loading the gun, and he's getting ready. It's just like the same idea in Fifth Element, kind of.
If that was the intent, I didn't really get that.
I mean, it's not exactly. It's a similar idea.
Well, this had way less of a reason to exist.
It was artistic. This was not.
I would argue that it's
okay. It was a little artistic.
It was.
That's fair.
It was more artistic.
Shameless.
It was shameless. Shameless pandering had less of a reason to exist within the confines of the movie's logic than the opera scene in Fifth Element, but it was definitely within that realm of weirdness and visuals for its own sake.
Yeah.
As far as creating a style and creating an actual identifiable visual, makeup.
Well,
I'm not saying like this was as good as. No,
I understand.
Yeah. From the perspective of.
Well, I mean, I do understand. It was kind of like, where did this alien really matter until the scene?
Yeah.
So I'll give you that much.
So Rihanna basically gets hoodwinked into this plot. They escape, and then she immediately dies for no reason. It's like, I guess I got injured in the scuffle. I dead.
But she was a little bit annoying.
A little bit annoying. But but before I die, let me transform myself into Nefertiti for just a moment here. And then I turn to dust. Why? Why did she...
I understand that turning to dust is, in style with her taking her last form as Nefertiti. But is that really how her species dies? Turning to dust?
I mean,
okay.
They're a liquid-based... when you see them in their original form, they're liquid-based, so...
She really would have been more of a splatter.
You think they would, they would just kind of dissolve into gelatinous...
I mean, if they really wanted... It was a comedic movie. If they really wanted to go for comedic effect, they would have had this serious moment with her being Nefertiti and saying her last line, because she studied playwrights and Shakespeare and everything else, and she would say her last line, and then it would be like... That's the movie, though, so it would have been funny.
So, she's... So she's dead for no... But, again, dead for no reason other than the story has no use for her, so she's dead. Her only excuse is that, I think I might have been injured. Alright, I'm going to be dead. Yeah, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
That's it.
How did they get through that grate? I still ask.
Apparently the holes in the grate were big enough that a regular human-sized person could get through, but not big enough for those gigantic lumbering oafs to get through.
Okay.
That's all I can...
Because all I could really see in that scene was the gelatinous being oozing through them.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Either or, but...
Oh, also there's a scene where Dane DeHaan where Rihanna alien goops over him, and he rides her, basically using her as cognito.
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
So really, he had, at the same time, a female inside him and over him.
Yeah,
he was inside a woman while a woman was inside him.
Yeah, you see, it's like poetry,
My
it
God,
rhymes.
I just noticed how amazing this movie is.
Don't think that the whole female spirit laying inside Dane DeHaan doesn't escape the movie's attention, or its lame attempts at some kind of joke about it.
And they really fucked that up.
Oh yeah.
And that's my least favorite part of the movie.
Can you really believe that we went this far into this discussion about this movie in detail without ever mentioning Clive Owen?
Yeah.
I mean, Clive Owen is the main villain of the movie, but he shows up for one scene at the beginning and then for one scene at the end.
How about Rutger Hauer?
Yeah, for his one scene.
For his
his one scene.
12-second scene or whatever in the beginning.
Yep.
Ooh.
where he plays President of Earth.
I'll take it.
I mean,
I'll take it.
yeah, I mean, Roy Batty, who better to represent humankind, right? Than somebody who only wants to be human. But, yeah, like, Clive Owen just kind of shows up out of the blue wearing this ridiculous army outfit, and he's the main bad guy. But he, like, disappears in the movie, like, 10 minutes after he appears and doesn't appear again for the rest of the movie. Because he was the guy who ordered the attack on the Pearls planet that wound up destroying it, so the Pearls have this vendetta against him. How the fuck did they find out that he was the guy who ordered that attack? I have no fucking clue.
Yeah, but they found out a lot of stuff. Those computers on the ships they had everything.
I know, even the access to the files that had been classified that no one could access to, but the Pearls could for some reason.
But they got good.
I mean, they got real good.
They got real good, and they were so good they didn't even feel like they had to like upgrade their attire from loincloths. From when they were a more simple species?
No. They did upgrade to those cloaks.
They only did that when they had to go out into public. So that they could, keep their identity a secret because, so many people knew about them, this alien race that no one knew about.
Yeah, like, why the fuck did they care? Like, nobody knew that planet was inhabited. Everyone believed that planet was uninhabited. Why the fuck would they care? It's like, hey, you look like you're from that planet that was destroyed that didn't have any people on it. Like,
they could have looked however the fuck they wanted. There's so many species on that planet nobody remembers.
Like, it's only for the sake of the movie that they wore those clothes.
They could have been one of the doppelganger species, just choosing a new look. Who fucking knows? They could do whatever they want.
There's over 1,000 alien species on that on that station. There's
and those species have probably created new offshoot species or whatever, and maybe they picked up some new ones on their ride. Who knows?
Who knows? Exactly. That's the big that's the one thing that really bothers me about this movie. I mean, there's a lot of things that bother me about this movie, from like the little nitpicky details of like characters that are just come in at the right time to do their job, and then boom, bye. And then of course the hacky, the hacky writing and the character turns that make no sense, including but not limited to fucking Dane DeHaan punching out Clive Owen for being an asshole, and then turning around and telling Davigny not 2 minutes afterwards, like, I'm a soldier and I obey the rules.
Wait, I thought she punched him out.
No, he punched out Clive Owen. He punched out Clive Owen. It's like, can I speak to you man to man? It's like, what? And
then, yeah, he did that. Yeah, and then she's
him.
like, I taught him that. She taught him how to
punch. Apparently, but then 2 minutes later, tell her right to her face, I'm a soldier and I obey, and I obey that. Like, does being a soldier mean punching out your superior officers? If so, you're a soldier in a terrible army. That was
my weakest point. That's what I was going to get to. That was my worst part of the movie. We both were just
like, it's like fucking. Oh, this is just so bullshit. This is this last ratcheting of the bullshit dramatic turn.
In a movie full of just suspending your disbelief. This was the point where we just couldn't.
We just couldn't. Like, you couldn't ask us to suspend our disbelief.
He's the guy who, while he was on duty in the beginning of the movie, stole the pearl that was not a part of his mission to take.
Yeah. And then all throughout this entire movie, like, he's defying orders. He's
being Dane DeHaan.
He's being Dane DeHaan.
It's like, come on, he's Dane DeHaan. I'm not gonna believe this shit.
So, like, and right as like Davigny was about to give the pearls, the last remaining matter replicator that is rightfully theirs, he's like, no, like, this isn't.
I'm a soldier. It is my duty to.
Like, where the fuck is this coming from? Oh, god damn it.
Yeah.
So, like, outside, but, like, that was the lowest point of the movie.
And he has that spirit inside him.
Yeah, too.
The spirit was, like, wasn't it, like, kind of guiding him this whole time in a way?
Yes.
Through visions and stuff. And remember, they're like, they bring, when he meets the prince or king and queen or whatever of the loincloth Navis, they're like, oh, sister. Yeah. And he's like oh yeah, she says hi too or whatever. Yeah. And which means that he was kind of like in touch with her.
Like he was her steward.
Yeah, but he was in touch. And how could he have this whole time driving him towards this, and then suddenly at the last very crucial moment that the deciding factor for everything, make that decision? You're asking too much of us. You're just asking too much of us.
Yeah, like that was the biggest fucking like drop in the movie at the exact same like at that point.
And what convinces him to do otherwise and go with it and stop this guy from exterminating the species?
Yeah.
That he wants to tap that ass.
An ass he is already tapped.
One that he's already tapped and is going to tap because they're a fucking item.
It's like
This is just kinky foreplay.
Davigny might as well have said, "Listen, give me the matter replicator, or there'll be no more anal for you." It's like, oh shit, well, fuck, give the back the matter replicator. Let's do the right thing, especially if butt plays up for grabs.
Seriously, like, and that's what changes his mind. Not the idea that he wants to help this species thrive and this and help this being he's been connected to. He just wants to ensure. Da Vinci that he really does want to marry her.
Da Vinci.
Da Vinci. I'm sorry.
Davigny.
Davigny.
Yeah.
Da Vinci. Yeah, he wants to.
Like, I could be wrong. I'm mispronouncing her name either, but like,
Honestly, this is the first movie we've seen her in.
Where she's actually asked to participate and act.
Yeah.
In a real movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, like, even looking over that, though, like, the lowest point in the movie, as far as everything is concerned, the one thing that actually keeps me from, like, legitimately enjoying this movie is how tortured the story becomes by the end of the movie. Like, it felt like this movie could have ended 20 minutes before, and then it felt like it was, like, it couldn't decide whether or not to have a peaceful resolution without an ending conflict, or to have the ending conflict.
Yeah.
And I was rooting for the peaceful resignation. Like, it seemed like that was the coda of the movie, to do right and forget our violent past.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how the movie began. That's how the movie tried to end. But like it wanted to be a spectacle science fiction movie, but then comes this and have some neat action set pieces on it. But like, the action set piece at the end was the worst part of the movie for me. Like, where the General Clive Owen's robots are just killing everyone, and Dahan is just acing all of them, and I'm thinking, this is no.
Yeah.
One, this isn't interesting to look at. Two, this feels like it's going against the movie.
That's the end's where it fell apart.
That's like it's. For a movie that seemed to want to buck against the trends of movie making today, but with a greater focus on visual storytelling and visual and like thematic design, and
how did you fall so short?
Like its insistence on like this action set piece at the end is just like, why? You don't need this. I mean, like, especially if you're just going to keep Clive Owen alive at the end to face up to what he did.
Yeah.
Which I agree is the better choice. Is the best, the best ending for this movie, but it didn't have to come at the expense of like this, like this really twisty and turny drive that we've been on for the last 2.5 hours.
At that point, I almost thought that he was going to somehow end up in the Mongoloid, parade as one of the hat bearers or something.
Yeah.
But, ooh, what dress are you gonna wear?
Oh, speaking of, like, do you remember, like, it was really, really quick, but it's so out of left field when, Dane DeHaan cut off that alien's top of the head and the crown fell and just knocked Davigny right.
Oh, that was actually pretty funny spot.
Like, she sold that like Looney Tunes, where she, like, I was expecting stars to like circle around her head. Or like birds or something.
She did a great job in this movie.
Yeah, she really did.
She really did. She has great character.
Yeah.
Her facial expressions are.
Oh,
really,
it's all in
really,
the eyebrows. It's all.
Yeah,
in the
she's
eyebrows.
got great eyebrows.
Yeah,
really expressive.
Yeah, like she has like almost like Brooke Shields' eyebrows.
Yeah.
Like, very, it's not only are they thick and characterful, but they also have a great range of motion. So it's not like fucking. Not like Santino Marella, where it's just eyebrow and that's it.
So it's got to go back to wrestling.
Always has to.
But yeah.
I think I as much as we've been talking about it, and I feel like there's more to say, I think I want to let it go for now, because I think we've imparted like our frustrations with this movie, but that good kind of frustration.
Yeah.
like this is not a movie. Like this is a movie that lets you sit back and let it happen, but it's not going to make it easy for you.
No. No.
You're going to be slapped upside the head several times. You're going to be experiencing every single high and low as far as like a movie going experience is concerned. And from that perspective, this is one of my favorite movies, but not a good movie. It's a movie that is so much fun to talk about.
It's a movie that I'll watch on Schlock Movie Night, despite the ending.
Despite the ending, but I think it makes for a more interesting movie to talk about. Like the movie for this week was going to be between this or Dunkirk. Now Dunkirk looks like a legitimate good movie, and I've heard incredible things about it.
Yeah, the reviews of it so far are just
Like I've read some incredible reviews of it, and I am genuinely interested in seeing it. But at the end of the day, would you rather see a movie that's legitimately good or a movie that you're going to be talking about for a long, long time?
Let me put it this way: he'd probably be a lot more bored listening to us talk about Dunkirk.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, like, even if we saw Dunkirk and it's like, it's not nearly as good as the reviews would let it out to be. It doesn't, like, the conversation isn't going to go anywhere that we haven't been before.
yeah.
This is a movie, not since Jupiter Ascending, has there been such a breadth of scenes to talk about.
Yeah.
On a scene by scene by scene basis. I feel like we're going to be talking about this movie for a long time. And so far this year, this is the only movie I want to buy. Well, I've seen this year that I want to buy on Blu-ray. Not even, I loved Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but I don't need to necessarily own it.
Yeah.
But I want to own Valerian. So.
All right.
If anything, just to, like, what went into the making of this goddamn movie? I have to know. Like,
Would you buy Jupiter Ascending? You'd have to, wouldn't you?
I don't know if I would.
They go together as far as a movie night.
I mean, I'd certainly rent them both together, but as far as a movie that I would want to, like, own, I don't know. Like,
It has a roller skating space lichen. I mean, come on. Those two movies, they kind of belong together as far as
they do.
as a movie night goes.
Yeah, like, that's going to be one of our movie nights. That's definitely going to be one of our movie nights.
Do you throw Avatar in?
No, Avatar's not nearly as entertaining. Avatar, I don't know when was the last time you saw Avatar, but I'm willing.
So, the thing is,
you're wearing your Avatar shirt, so.
I got this around the same time it came out, and I saw it, and I enjoyed it.
But I would
2009 leading into 2010,
yeah.
December of 2009. I was much more ignorant. I didn't really know what I liked then. I was just I'd be willing to wager dollars to donuts that Avatar may be the single biggest drop off from initial interest to, like, who gives a shit. And my taste was just hadn't matured very well to what it is now. Or I hadn't been, desensitized or jaded or whatever you want to call it. But
like, a movie makes $2 billion.
Yeah.
And you always hear of more sequels coming, but can anyone really, like, does anyone really care? I mean, I'm sure there's people that care, but, like, people are more up in arms for, like, Star Wars and more Star Wars movies.
People
than
cared
Avatar.
a hell of a lot during those couple years leading from it.
Yeah, like, for about, like, 2010 to 11,
yeah,
the world belonged to Avatar. And it reinvigorated the movie-going experience in December.
I mean,
ever since
give
then,
all the props for, it's, just pioneering the CG world where it did, and having a kind of bringing sci-fi a little bit of a shot in the arm, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily want to see Avatar again. I kind of do. Just like I liked the movie. Well, why did this turn into a discussion about Avatar? Jesus fuck. Dropping off the conversation at the kiddie pool here. I will leave it at, like, I don't necessarily want to see it again, but I would want to revisit it only for the sake of, has my opinion changed at all?
My viewpoint is, I mean, I want to see it again to see if I was wrong the way I perceived it the first time. I don't want to see it because I don't want to ruin my first experience that I had of it.
Yeah, you're of two minds.
Yeah.
All right. And I think I mostly am too. But Whew! Next week is going to be another interesting topic, I think. Atomic Blonde.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be...
Yeah, that looks like a legitimately good movie.
Or at the very least, another movie that's going to be fun to talk about.
Yeah.
So, until next week,